Okay. So if I want to make something like this, a technique is to make one of these cutouts and then use a circular pattern to replicate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sketch. All right. Now, you might be inclined to make a sketch on the top. And you certainly could do that. But you may find it easier to actually sketch underneath. Because then you can clearly see where the outer and inner rims end. If you sketch on the top, like this, if I sketch on the top, you can use the project tool and you can project these things that are underneath and then they will pop up. At least they should. Oh, Lord have mercy. There. So, like, you don't have to sketch down here, okay? I actually sketched on top. And then I use this project thing to project those walls. But you also could just sketch underneath. You do you. It kind of depends, honestly, on things. All right? And you'll see later what I mean when I say things. You might realize you want to sketch on top because you might need to actually extrude or extend your sketch beyond these walls, and you'll see why in a moment. I'm just trying to get something done quickly, though, okay? So what I'm going to do is I am on the top of my wheel. I have projected the inner edge of the outer wall and the outer edge of the inner wall. Yes, yeah? Because I'm better. Skill issue. Now, let's say that I want to do a cutout that is straight lines. Think like a pie slice. Okay? So, let's say I want to do that. All right? So, what I would do is I would use the line tool. What tool?
Line tool.
Line tool. Okay? And what I would do is I would draw my line all the way from the center to this outer wall. And then I would do the same on the other side. So I have two lines. Yes, yeah, we're good? Yeah. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a horizontal constraint. What type of constraint?
Horizontal.
If I use a horizontal constraint, what I can do is I can force these dots to line up. And what this means then is if you watch, they are now forced to be like symmetric about the vertical axis because they're forced to be on the same horizontal line. We're good? Yeah? Now, you could get out calipers and you could measure how far apart those are. I believe there's a couple cars that have cutouts kind of similar to this. Kind of similar. Okay? And so what you could do is you can measure that. You also could use geometry. Let's say, for example, that there's 10 of those cutouts.
Okay, I did not pass my geometry class.
Well, that's a different issue. So let's say there's 10 of these cutouts. How many degrees are there in a circle?
360.
So each of the 10 cutouts would be 36 degrees. Now, if you made it 36 degrees, and then you made 10 of them, you would just cut out everything, right? But you could like ballpark it and you could go, so maybe it's only 30 degrees. And there'd be like a little bit of extra.
Well, yeah,
So you can get your dimensions, and if you have two angled lines and you try to dimension them, it actually is the angle between them. So like I can make this 25 degrees. I'm just making up a number. Okay? Are we good so far? Now, if I finish this sketch and I try to extrude, that region is selectable. Okay? Okay? That region is selectable. Mine was 25 degrees, right? Okay? So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to remove and I'm going to just go through all. And I get like a little chunk cut out. Are we good so far? You should be able to do an extrusion that cuts through material. That's something you should know how to do.
A question. How'd you get it up to like that second line?
I don't know.
So yeah, right there.
Here?
Yeah.
I drew, this is a line I drew.
Right, I have those.
This is a line that I drew. These circles I projected. I turned my shape around. I clicked on the project tool.
Right.
And then I clicked on like the base of those walls to project those circles.
Right.
That's all that I did. And then when I tried to extrude, okay, okay, that region was selectable because it's completely bound.
That makes sense. Thank you.
It doesn't really matter what you have. If you have something, you can use a circular pattern to pattern it around the wheel. Yes, yeah. So maybe it's a cutout. Maybe it's something more fancy. You do you.
Can you show the screw again?
The screw?
The screw.
Click on the region you want to cut out.
Yeah, I was looking at it.
You click on whatever you want. So I'm going to use a circular pattern feature. And that is, so right here, there's like 3 dark cubes and 1 light cube. That's the linear pattern. But if you click on the drop down next to it, you have, amongst other things, this circular pattern. Yes, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are we good? Yeah? I know.
Damn it, Pablo.
So there's this drop down and click circular pattern. This is why we have a stream. You're going to have to start following it. Now, one thing that is really annoying, and I wish it didn't default to this, is 9 times out of 10, when you want to pattern something, you want to pattern a feature. And it actually, right here, the very first thing, it actually defaults to part. So you need to click this, and you need to choose feature pattern. What are we choosing?
Feature pattern.
All right. If you don't do that, you're not going to be able to click on anything. All right. So it says features to pattern right here. So what do I want to pattern? You can actually select multiple features. You can click on them here, or you can click on them over here. If you're cutting things away, how do you click on a hole? You know what I'm saying? Because there's nothing there. So typically, when you want to pattern features, you want to click on the features on the left side, on this little table of contents kind of thing. So like I'm going to pattern this cutout. And then the axis of pattern, I'm going to click on that. And honestly, you can choose just about anything. You could choose this circle. You could choose this circle. You could choose even these arcs, okay? Doesn't really matter. And at this point, now you just say how many of these bad boys you want. So like I could put 12, for example. Or I could put 8. Or why is this doing touch a button? Okay, for some reason, I'm not really sure why, I'm having to check this reapply features. I don't know why it doesn't work if I don't check that, but easy enough. And you can put in how many of them you want. And if you do equal spacing, then they'll be equally spaced out. Are we good? Yeah. This is a way to do rims. Not going to say it's the only way or even the best way. One thing you may notice here that you may not like the fact that these get thicker as you get further away because they're like slices of a pie, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't like that, okay, you can draw your lines differently.
Trying to make it picture baseball.
If you're wondering how to do that, I go back into my sketch here. You can draw a line that, say, parallels this. So this line, if you look carefully, there's a parallel constraint automatically being applied. I'll do another one. It's not giving me a snap to. But you can use constraints like parallel. So I can make this line parallel to these that go to the center. Basically what this does is they're angled appropriately, but they are not going to run through the center. So you'll see in a moment what happens if I do that. So you'll notice now when I did that, do you see how the spokes have the same width? Both in the inside and the outside. And how did I do that? In my sketch, what I did is I drew these lines parallel to. They're just parallel to the ones that actually go the way of the center. And by doing that, it makes the spoke width the same all the way from inside to outside. That's just one technique that you can do. I don't know why it says it can't solve that, even though it literally used it fine. So different options there. You do you. Okay? Do we have questions? Now let's say you want to do something with curves. Okay? So there's a few ways that you can do that. I guess I can dimension. That works. I'm going to rename these something. I'm going to rename these spokes. The reason why I'm renaming them spokes is they're like your traditional spokes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all of them off, and I'm going to show a different way to do this. So I'm clicking on my spokes, feature, and circular pattern, all this stuff, and I am actually suppressing it. So if you want to suppress a feature, this is different from hiding. Hiding, okay, is what you do to like a sketch. So you just don't see it, but it's still used, or you can still use it. I'm going to actually right-click on my spokes circular pattern, and I'm going to choose suppress. What am I choosing?
Suppress.
And then I'm going to right-click on my spokes extrusion, and I'm going to choose suppress. You'll notice that they have a line striking through them on this left side over here. And then also, you just straight up don't see them. And I'm even going to hide the sketch then. This is a great way if you want to have like two different things that are mutually exclusive. You can like suppress one, turn the other on, or then, and just change which one's on, which one's off. I am going to make a new sketch on the top, and I am going to now do something with circles or arcs. Okay? So I will project those same walls again so that I have something to work with. And now I'm going to do something that's got a little bit more curve to it, arcs. All right? So what am I going to do here? Well, you need to look at your wheel and really see where it's actually part of like a circle and where maybe it's just part of like an ellipse or some other shape that's curvy but not necessarily part of a nice shape. And you got to make a judgment call on how complicated you want to make this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use an arc. You do you. You can make it more complicated if you want. But I am going to start off somewhat simple. And I'm going to go right here. This is the arc tool. And you have a few options. You have a 3-point arc, a center point arc, and then a bunch of other things. Generally speaking, the center point arc is really, really good if you know where the center of the arc is. So in this case, one of my arcs, the center, could potentially be the center of this circle. But if I'm trying to make this cutout, I got this like curve shape thing here. Where's the center of that curve shape thing? I don't know, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. So when you don't know where the center is, the 3-point arc is probably a better choice. So I'm going to use the 3-point arc. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click to place one end. I'm going to click to place the other end. And then the third click kind of just ballpark indicates the direction it's going to move and how arcy it is. So I got my arc. I use a 3-point arc to do that. Do we have questions? We're good? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use constraints to get this symmetrical. So what would be a good constraint to use here? This is where we start to see if you've actually learned anything. I want to get that arc centered and all lined up and spiffy.
Horizontal.
Okay, what would I use a horizontal constraint on?
The two at the top to make sure they're even.
Okay, so I use a horizontal constraint for the two at the top so that they're even. Okay, that's fine.
You could also do like a vertical for the middle one.
Yeah. So the vertical constraint for the middle would be a good idea as well. If I vertically align the center of this arc with the origin,
Okay, yeah.
okay, that'd be a great constraint to apply. Okay? At this point now, it's really just what shape do you want for your arc? Now, you do you. I want to be very clear. This center does not have to be on that wall. But you could constrain it to that if you wanted to. I want to see if I can do this, and if I can, I'm going to be very proud of myself. No, doesn't work out. If you want to dimension things, for example, let's say I want to know if I want to dimension how far the bottom of this arc is from this hole. Because that's something I can measure, right? I can measure that gap with my calipers. This is where points come in handy. See the point tool? Yes, yeah? I can place a point right there. And then I actually have something that I can dimension. I can dimension to that. And I can dimension how far apart these are. I just ballpark those numbers. I don't, just making them up. Okay. Now I have an arc. And I do the same thing I did before. I cut. And then I circular pattern. And again, I don't really know why you have to choose reapply features, but you do. At least I'm having to. And now I've cut 5 of those little cute arcs. So I'll call these arcs, because why not? We good so far? Maybe? Possibly?
I'm getting there. I'm not.
We have questions. There's 2 more things that you need to do. The first is, you may notice this rounding on this inner edge, right? That is a fillet. How big of a fillet? Well, you can use a little bit of a logic, and you could say that fillet is probably the width of that wall, or pretty close to it. So I'm getting 3.7, 3.8. No, more like 3.5 maybe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the fillet tool. I'm going to fillet that, and if I say 3, works out. If I say 3.5, might be too big. Yeah, 3.5 actually did work out. Okay. So I can fill at the bottom. That's trivial to do. That's not a problem. But if I want to do the top, you might have to select each of these individually. And this is where stuff starts to get ugly. You'll notice if I try to fillet this, okay, it doesn't work out too well if the fillet is too large. Let me make this fillet like 2. See if I can go with 2. Let's do that. So if I go a fillet like that, okay, that worked out. I went with a fillet of 2. But you may notice, if you look carefully, you may notice that like the arc still continued. And that may not be what you want. Okay? And this is where the order in which you do features matters. In hindsight, after you look at this, you might realize it might have been better to do the fillet first and then go back in and do these spokes. So I'm going to leave you guys some time to play around with this, okay? But you may find it better to do your fillets first and then do your spokes. Something else you might want to do is you might want to shell this. So if you click on shell, you might want to shell underneath. That looks very much like, how the spokes actually look. Okay? So you may also decide you want to shell these. All right? So I'm going to give you some time to play with this. Focus more on making them look cool in a way you like than necessarily trying to replicate exactly what you see. But I mean, you do you. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. If you want help, I can help you. But this will be the first time where you're really doing something on your own. And it may not be easy, okay? So you'll have time today and some time tomorrow to do that. Get out of the edit mode and then click on it. Really, like click on. I don't know what to find. Click on the number. You can't be in edit mode. Then you're text editor. You'll be a boss selected. I have to right click on it. I don't know that the backspace works. And then you can. What's something for the minute stage, right? Yeah. Yeah. The backspace should work. All right, I'm gonna make these wheels super juicy. You ready for this? You're about to see some super juicy wheels. It's gonna be good. You ready to see some super juicy wheels, Calvin? I'm ready. It's gonna be good. See, I see you doubting me, but you shouldn't be doubting me.
I stayed up till 2 last night playing Hell.
Oh yeah, that's good. I don't know why this is a warning though.
I don't know how well that works with like physics, but
What do you mean? It works. What?
I don't think that would.
What do you
Really?
mean this wasn't? Dude, this worked out perfect, bro. Dude, you need to like. You
How
need
does
to-
that
you
middle
need to-
piece stay there? in a
You need
real
to have
car?
some faith, bro. You need faith. What you need.
I didn't realize you were done. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what your deal is, dude. You need to have some more faith, man. Like, we're cooking over here, bro. This is top tier. What you mean?
No, you got it. You're right.
3.6. Okay, I can do that. 3.6. Let's get these juicy fillets going. You're about to see the best baller wheel ever.
The best what?
It's gonna be an amazing wheel. I know you're thinking, nah, man, this bro, he just be a teach. He can't do nothing for real.
How in the world went?
Okay, so we got that. All right, we got the fillet rounding going. Okay, we got some fillet rounding going.
Oh my god!
Looks like it's out of Rocket League.
Bro, what do you know about Rocket League?
That's Supersonic Champ. That's what I know about Rocket League. Oh.
Yeah.
Hold on. I've got this sketch here that I'm trying to put here, but it won't let me like select it. I've got the axis and then feature pattern. I need to get
Sketch is a feature.
You
You have to like cut that out first.
Oh, I have to cut it out first.
You have to do like extrusion. Yeah, you pattern features.
Okay.
If you want to pattern parts of the sketch, you have to pattern them in the same sketch. I would not do that.
Okay.
I would pattern the feature.
Some bad.
There it is. Something you guys might find useful. You ready for this? Let's say I want to cut this shape in half just to like view things inside. So you can click on like a plane, like say front, for example. You can right click on it and you can choose section view.
Section.
And it cuts it in half along that. And then if you can modify it, but if you want to go back to how it was, over here underneath the view cube, there's this little camera and render options, and then you can turn section views on and off. Okay. I'll let you play with that. But you may find that to be really, really useful if you're trying to do what I'm about to do, which I